society, to this world. Friends, I'd like to offer up this prayer of confession for all of us and then invite you to join in the words of assurance. Let us pray. God, you know there are days when we see others not following you, not behaving the way you call us to and the way we think they should be. And we want you to punish them. We see people spreading hate and fear, and no, this isn't your way. We see people mistreating each other, and we are angry. We understand why James and John asked, Lord, do you want us to command fire to come down from heaven and consume them? And we know, just like Jesus rebuked the disciples, you would tell us this is not your way. Forgive us for wanting to repay hate with hate and violence with violence. God, we promised to follow you. And yet so many other things pull at our time and attention. We will follow you as soon as our to-do list is tackled, our house is clean enough for company, and we've cared for our family. Forgive us, God, for not putting you first in our lives. God, we ask that you give us righteous anger at the injustice in the world, and that you help us to have our priorities in order so that we may follow you. Let us always remember that our God is merciful and loving. God hears us when we call. May we find forgiveness and comfort in these words from Psalm 16. God, show me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. In your right hand are pleasures forevermore.
This morning's scripture reading comes from Luke chapter 5, verses 33 through chapter 6, verse 11. And they said to him, the disciples of John fast often and offer prayers, and so do the disciples of the Pharisees, but yours eat and drink. And Jesus said to them, can you make wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is with them? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast in those days. He also told them a parable. No one tears a piece from a new garment and puts it on an old garment. If he does, he will tear the new, and the piece from the new will not match the old. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins. If he does, the new wine will burst the skins, and it will be spilled, and the skins will be destroyed. But new wine must be put into fresh wineskins. And no one, after drinking old wine, desires new, for he says the old is good. On a Sabbath, while he was going through the grain fields, his disciples plucked and ate some heads of grain, rubbing them in their hands. But some of the Pharisees said, why are you doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath? And Jesus answered them, have you not read what David did when he was hungry, he and those who were with him, how he entered the house of God and took and ate the bread of the presence, which is not lawful for any but the priest to eat, and also gave it to those with him. And he said to them, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. On another Sabbath, he entered the synagogue and was teaching, and a man was there whose right hand was withered. And the scribes and the Pharisees watched him to see whether he would heal on the Sabbath, so that they might find a reason to accuse him. But he knew their thoughts, and he said to the man with the withered hand, come and stand here. And he rose and stood there. And Jesus said to them, I ask you, is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save life or to destroy it? And after looking around at them, all he said to him, stretch out your hand. And he did so, and his hand was restored. But they were filled with fury and discussed with one another what they might do to Jesus.
Thank you, Sandy, for that reading. From the Gospel of Luke. Just as an aside, before I actually start the message, that very last verse, but they were filled with fury and discussed with one another what they might do to Jesus, was the beginning of planning of Jesus' demise, his earthly demise, his arrest and trial and eventual crucifixion. So early in his ministry, they're already talking about, what do we do with this guy? What do we do with Jesus? I'm a bit torn this morning because one of the things that was drummed into me going through seminary and the next going through seminary was that when it comes to preaching, we should do so unapologetically. And I believe I do that. Sometimes the message agrees with us, sometimes the message doesn't agree with us. But today I felt like I should really just offer this preface that I'm going to be talking about change. Change the church, change the world. And this is not with any specific change in mind. This is actually a text that I had in the works quite some time ago. And so I invite you to listen with an open heart. In just a little bit, we'll also be watching a video clip. It'll take me just a moment to get it set up. And at that time, I'm going to ask Larry if you'd be able to hit the breakers to dim these lights here so you can see. Okay. The other night, I was part of a conversation in which we were talking about change. And one person said words to this effect: we are not quick to change. We don't like to change. And that includes me. Now, with few exceptions, I think this describes most of us. Many of us. We're slow to change. Change is difficult. Years ago, someone told me, people don't mind change. They just don't like being told they have to change. Perhaps. But in general, we like things the way they are. We choose to live according to the lyrics of that awesome Midnight Star song. Don't rock the boat. Don't rock that boat. Don't rock that boat, baby. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just relax and let it flow. Don't rock the boat. Don't rock that boat, baby. If it don't fit, don't force it. Just chill out and let it flow. And yet when it comes to Christianity and the teachings of Jesus Christ, it's about that very thing the teachings and preachings of Jesus are about. Change. Change in our lives. Now, I'm not here this morning with the intention of driving you to change or forcing you to change or even telling you you have to change. What I really want to do this morning is just open the door to the possibility that change can be a good thing. That Jesus challenges our senses and sensibilities as Christians to either stop doing something or to start doing something. To stop thinking only a certain way and embrace a broader understanding. To consider what could be. To ask ourselves the question, what if? So for today, let's just consider the possibilities, asking what could be or what if. Years ago, James Earl Jones did a denominational-wide promotion entitled What If? And in this, he asks us to think about church differently. And one of the most meaningful phrases for me comes right at the very beginning of what he tells us. He said, what if we rethink church? What if church were less about Sunday and more about the other days of the week? What if church wasn't just a place we go, but something we do? A menu of adventure, an active verb instead of a noun. And so I want to show you that video clip. It's about 3 minutes long.
What if we rethink church? What if church was less about Sunday and more about the other days of the week? What if church wasn't just a place we go, but something we do? A menu of adventure, an active verb instead of a noun. What if church wasn't just a building, but thousands of doors, each of them opening up to a different concept or experience of church, so that whoever knocks might find a journey to call their own? What if church was the way church was in the beginning? Outbound, unbound, active. Human beings from completely different worlds, united by common purpose, experience, and belief, creating real solutions for their daily lives. What if church looked at itself with seeker's eyes, recognizing that even the smallest step through one of our doors is an act of courage, a moment of vulnerability? That solving a secular need can lead to spiritual interaction. That social relationships can offer opportunities for discussions of faith and provide inspiration for discovery. And that for a skeptical world, actions often do speak louder than words. What if church was more of an out-of-church experience? An opportunity to prove what we say we believe with our lives. Then, perhaps Sunday could be a day of rest and reflection on all that we had accomplished Monday through Saturday. What if we rethink church, not in terms of what it is, but what it could be? What if we can convince the world to do the same?
Good video? Kind of makes us think, doesn't it? Think about the possibilities. What could be? What if? And I love that phrase, a menu of adventure. What if we saw church as a menu of adventure? That just stirs something within me. It's an excitement, something I hadn't thought about church in that way before. A menu of adventure. An active verb instead of a noun. When we read the Gospels, we find that Jesus struggles with this very thing. That for many, church is where they go. It's the religious festivals and the holy days. It's a day of praying in the synagogue. It's days or weeks of fasting. It's following the letter of the law, which in his days, the Jewish tradition counted 613 laws that all faithful Jews were to follow. 613. But thankfully for the Jews, they didn't need to really memorize all 613 because there were Pharisees and temple leaders and priests to tell them what to do and what not to do. As a matter of fact, it's the Pharisees and the scribes who are questioning Jesus' actions today. They tell Jesus, the disciples of John fast often and offer prayers, and so do the disciples of the Pharisees. But yours eat and drink. In essence, they're saying, this is what we expect. This is what we've always done. Why aren't you doing it like we are? Or the way we've always done it? But Jesus does things differently. Certainly different from their customary practices. Now, fasting in Judaism was a major rite of piety, of virtue, or righteousness. And it was highly regarded in worship and took place on major holidays or festivals that they were celebrating. And fasting could be a one-day affair, or, for example, in commemoration of the fall of Jerusalem, fasting could last 4 days. Other times it could last up to 3 weeks. And for Jesus' disciples, not to fast was considered disrespectful of God. And so Jesus responds using the groom of a wedding. And this symbolism was often used to describe God's relationship with his people. Jesus states, as long as the groom is here, there's no need to mourn or seek deliverance. There's no need to fast. In the future, there will be time for that, but not now. And he paints this picture to help them better understand a new era, a new administration, if you will, with new perspectives has arrived. And this new time that Jesus brings is like a piece of new cloth. You don't take new cloth and sew it into old garments. That's not good use of what's new. You would then wash the garment, and the new fabric would shrink, whereas the old does not. And then you have tearing of fabric and a waste of both old and new. And then there are wineskins. Now, wineskins are usually made from sheep or goat skin. You have to strip off the hair and then cure the hide, and then you can store wine in it. And to put new wine into an old wineskin would lead to disaster, because the new wine continues to ferment once it's in the new wineskin. And the old wineskin cannot expand the way new wineskin can. The fermentation causes that skin to expand. But with old wineskin, its age and brittleness would cause it to rip, and then all the wine is lost. Now lastly, he throws this one-liner in, and he says, and no one after drinking old wineskin deserves new. For he says that old is good. Now, this is for those who have already made up their minds, that the old is good. While John the Baptist is preaching and baptizing and telling people a new era of change is coming, Jesus knows that some don't want to change. And he expects many not to respond to his new way. Now, ultimately, Jesus' actions, the eating of grain on the Sabbath day, and other such new ways, is not being questioned. What's actually being questioned by the Pharisees and church leaders and scribes is his authority to do so. Who gave Jesus the authority to give grain to or permit his disciples to eat grain on this day? And his argument is that God's law was never intended to keep people from meeting their basic needs, like eating. King David was an example of what the law really intended. That the law was here to serve the people. And in certain circumstances, the letter of the law needed to be set aside so that the people could be served. All of this presented the Pharisees with a problem. Honoring the Sabbath becomes less about traditional Jewish leadership and more about the needs of the people. New wine going into new wineskins. At the end, Jesus states quite clearly, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. Jesus, Son of Man, Son of God, is Lord. And Jesus is not here to serve the Sabbath. The Sabbath is there to serve him. Nor were people created to serve the Sabbath. Its intention was to guide people in their relationship with God and their relationship with one another. Now, our own worship has changed over the years and centuries